And I'm thrilled to be joined here now on Underground Frequency by two members of the Save the Cranker campaign, Evan and Nazz. Welcome to Underground Frequency, guys.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mark. How are you?
Good,
Any
thanks.
money?
Great to have you both here. Evan, you're the chair of the Save the Cranker campaign. I think it's been a bit of a whirlwind since this all kicked off. What are we talking, 5 weeks since this has been happening?
Yeah, the initial notification was about 5 weeks now.
Yeah.
And, it's been a considerable effort put in by everyone over the last 4.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So it really came about from a Facebook group that I started with initial outrage with the announcement,
Yes.
not expecting for things to take off quite the way that they did.
Yeah.
However, it's clear that the community is very passionate about this, the same way that I was feeling at the time, and there was a need for us to get organised, and that was apparent really clear. So that first weekend came about and everyone was irate and expressing their feelings, and it was a bit all over the shop. And as things progressed, there was a need to formalise a bit of a strategy that was going to work to actually help inform the change that's needed.
Organise.
Organised. Yes. That's
I
right.
do. And I remember when that Facebook page got set up, because I think I got invited into it that weekend, and I went, right, and there was already, what I could see is so many different people with different skill sets adding really cognizant, concise arguments straight away, and I thought, this is great. This already had a feel of like people, a diversity of people with a diverse skill set who all love the cranker, who go, I'm going to get involved in this. So it was great to see that emerged very quickly into a comprehensive campaign. Naz, how did you get drafted into it? Walking past the pub and someone just, you just got grabbed? Or
No, I think just the same as Evan, I responded very strongly to the news.
Yeah.
And the Cranker is a place that really means a lot to me,
Yeah.
as it does to a lot of people. But going back the whole history of the pub as we know it,
Yeah.
as far back as probably 92. But the response, so I was just chipping in on the site, helping craft, steering people here and there through productive, pragmatic kind of solutions and things like that. And Evan reached out and asked if I would come to a meeting.
That's right, yeah.
And I didn't expect at that time I would end up on the board.
Yeah.
But I walked out just being completely convinced by the passion and the real community vibe of the people in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on, you talked about the history of the pub, especially from 92, and that's when I sort of know the pub too, for that 30-year period of music. But the pub's got a much longer history than that too, hasn't it, Evan?
Absolutely. It's been about since 1853.
Yeah.
And throughout its various incarnations, it's been a staple for what was the East End markets,
Yes.
Effectively where the apartments on Union Street, in behind there. And I remember this when I was young crew growing up. You'd finish up a gig at the Producers or the TIV, and you'd be making your way up to Rundle Street, and you'd walk through this dirt car park.
Yes.
And in the middle of summer, it was a pretty surreal place to be in the summertime, looking
cool.
up at the stars.
I remember the East End market well, actually.
Yeah. But what we don't remember is when it was a functioning and thriving sort of equivalent of the central market, but an outdoor space. And so we look at how we engage with shopping for food and Coles and Woolies or one of those sorts of places, and it's a very homogenised experience. But in those days, there was a need to have a space where all the producers were able to come down and they'd meet and they'd make their friendships and relationships. And after a hard day's work, they'd need a beer and maybe not a beer, but they'd need that companionship at the cranker. And so we've been unpacking a fair bit of history around those early days. And one of the branches within the organisation that informal organisation that we set up, but we're pretty structured. We've got a historian research branch and some very passionate people there that I think they're up to, how many lines in that spreadsheet would it be now?
It's
Naz?
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Really impressive, all this stuff that we didn't know.
I think there's about 153 different lines of different source material that's been tracked down. And this goes from things like it was where the magistrates used to drink in the early 1880s.
Yep.
It was on the original plan of the city of Adelaide that was signed off by Governor Hindmarsh.
Yes. So it's got pedigree.
100%.
Yeah. But also, it's been to me, from what I've read, from what you've put up as well, it's been pretty much a fully functioning business that whole time. It probably hasn't had a period where it's been closed, or if it has, only briefly. But,
it has been closed briefly from what I've heard, and that was through the gold rush. So it happened to a lot of the pubs at that time that there was just no one about to drink there.
Yeah. Because they all went off to the goldfields.
Yeah, but then they came back with money and probably got a new bar put in place and some stools for sitting on.
But you're talking like 1870s or 1880s, the gold rush, I think.
That
period.
My chronology.
Let's talk about the last 120 years. It's been a functioning business, and I want to press upon that for listeners as well. And I think listeners to 3D in general know that it is an established venue. It's functioning, but unlike some other pubs around town that you hear about development proposals being put forward for them, but they're vacant. There's no licensee. There's no community around them. Totally the opposite with the Crown and Anchor. It's been a thriving community, and it's a thriving business. It's got a great business model, and it works.
And I think that's a misconception that many people in public that aren't frequenting the Crank might sort of perceive as to, it's been sold up because it's not a profitable business. But that's far from the case. Drive past there from Wednesday night onwards, and you'll see a whole lot of people out the front enjoying themselves, and
7 days a week.
7 days a week, you've got music in there. So
until late. So we got a really interesting kind of message this morning from somebody, because one of the great things about running this site is that you're hearing a lot of people's stories.
Yes.
And somebody was lamenting, what will happen to Adelaide if the Cranker isn't there? And they were saying Adelaide last night was really still, except for one place, the Cranker, which was and you wouldn't know how still it was inside the venue because it was so full of life. And then you step outside, and then it's, if this isn't here, then what?
Exactly. And that was a comment from last night, from last night they were saying that.
It was something awesome. I woke to this morning.
It's really funny because I was there last night watching some gigs, and I'm gonna play some bands in a minute that were playing there, and I felt the same actually. It's funny that you say that, Naz, because it was fun inside, and there was people I know, and we were talking, and then I left, reasonably tidy hour, midnight midnight or something, and the East End was just dead. Everything was so quiet, but the Cranker was very, it was ticking along as it always does.
This isn't a legacy pub.
No.
This is, it's as vital today as it was. And we'll get into some of the things that have happened to a pub that has lasted for that long in this continuous stream of live music culture. But it's just such it's such a special place to be.
It is.
I think.
And if I can put a pin on that, it is that when we say the Save the Cranker campaign, for people listening in who have seen that, this is not about throwing a lifeline to the business. They're not asking for help. This is not that things that we have seen in recent years, through COVID with other venues, and the venues that have been shutting down in the last 6 months, particularly the West End of Hindley Street. This is not about that. This venue does not need the support. What we're opposing to is the current owner of the property wanting to acquiesce to a new development application from a developer based in Singapore who just wants to knock it down and build more uni housing. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
And to that point, I think it's akin for our culture, for our live music culture. It's akin to, imagine if they just announced without precedent tomorrow that they were going to build this instead on the State Theatre.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's the equivalent, and it's
a good
that
point.
Ridiculous. Where are those students going to go?
Especially for $3 schooners on a Wednesday night.
It's such a big place for students. Has been since the 90s.
Absolutely.
That triangle. Do you remember the magic sort of triangle that we had? Austral, Exeter, Cranker, and then of course producers over to the Tivoli.
Yep.
But it went from just workers to almost overnight because of the way that the pubs had been put together into full of students. And it's been that way since.
Yeah.
Incubators of talent like the Crown and Anchor are an essential part of any grassroots system.
Yeah.
And it's like really the Cranker, due to its capacity, really sits at a very beautiful size, which is the small to medium, right?
Yep.
So and we have the front bar, by the way.
Yes.
So like there are multiple ways of being able to play the Cranker. That particular space is where I think you find some of the most exciting growth in bands.
Yeah.
It's a grand stage, it's a proper stage. It's a really interesting room.
Yeah.
And it has so much. This is the other thing that you can't replace. It has so much history, and what I'm talking about is the history that starts around 1992, and we have an intergenerational thing that is happening in those rooms.
Yeah.
So the latest band can see, the Mark of Cain came through here. Like all of these bands that came before me, they came through here, they thrived, and this is our turn. This is where we are. As we're pushing into the future.
But it's hallowed ground in that space.
It absolutely is. One thing that we hear quite a lot is that the Tote is Melbourne's Crown and Anchor. And there are pubs like this, dotted throughout this great nation, where people will tour to. And they're rock and roll pubs.
Yeah.
Like they're not. These are hard to find. You can't just say it's going to be one.
And you can't say it yourself if you run the business. It's got to be thought of by the community around you. They have to see it that way. And that's only through years and years of being, supporting music. It's not just an overnight thing.
And the Cranker has that other thing, I think, which makes it like that extra special thing is when the bands aren't playing or when you're waiting for the bands, it's not like people suddenly disappear. They're hanging out in the front bar and in all of the rooms. Yeah. We have DJs through there. It's a hangout as well. They don't see the band go.
Yeah.
They meet. They'll go see the band. They'll stick around.
Absolutely. That's a nice segue. Let's play some music from, I think for the next hour while we're talking, I've got some music queued up for different bands that I've been seeing a lot at the Cranker this year. And
Excellent.
because there is so much good stuff coming through.
We are seeing this as a long or protracted campaign.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be over overnight, but we need our community to step up for community. And
just on that then, because it's gone up, because we can all see the development plans, obviously now it's open. The State Development Board is now taking public submissions from people to write in about it. When's that date close?
So it's possibly May 13th or 14th. I'm sorry that I can't.
No, that's fine.
I think you're right.
Yeah. What we're in the process of doing, and I know that it might seem like we're not doing much, but I can assure you, behind the scenes, we've got a drafting team as part of the volunteer group that have stepped up, and they're people with specific skill sets around how to approach a submission like this to be able to get the greatest effect. And we're picturing that we'll have that completed by the end of the week. I think, next Friday is where we're aiming for that.
Yeah.
And then it will be able to act as a guide for people to be able to put in a submission where there's been a lot of consideration to.
So it's almost like a pro forma or a template that they can use to put their own submission in, put their name to it.
So that those energies aren't wasted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a fantastic idea. Where can people find that template when it's ready to go?
Yeah, so once we've got that in place, it's going to be on multiple platforms.
Sure.
So accessibility to it is going to be really important, and also encouraging people to be able to share it as well. So it will be in a document format where people will be able to add to it themselves, because it's important that we've all got our own connection to that space and our own connection with community, and for them to be able to express in their words is important, but also some of the formality that is really important, being able to push that through.
And this is the expertise that we brought in. So part of this is to, like, we both honour and respect the heated emotions that our community have and are expressing about this threat. As soon as the image of that building, it looked like something out of from the Empire from Star Wars. So came out, like, people were really panicking, and we understand also that there's a frustration in sort of the wait to get this right, but because people's emotions and the connections to the cranker are so important to us, we want to make sure that it's as bulletproof as possible, so that we're not just frittering our energies.
And I think that's a really pragmatic approach, because at the moment we're talking about, this is essentially what's happened now. It's a commercial undertaking. The cranker is what it is for a lot of us, but it's owned by an Adelaide property developer who bought it in 2016. He's got interest now from a Singapore-based developer to do this. It's a commercial process that then, so if they had their way and they didn't have to go to a state development board, they would just go ahead and do it.
They would.
And so the checks and balances that we have as we live in a liberal democracy is, okay, now this goes to what we have now in place, which is the state development board. And the pragmatic approach is, we have a submission open to the public, but it's also open to other people, including, the MP for Adelaide and other people who can submit their opposition to it as well. And on a number of considerations, that's the pragmatic thing that we do to kind of oppose it. And there is, I'll touch on that briefly, but if people want to look at it, there is some good documentation about the recent opposition to the Buckingham Arms development that happened that's based in Walkerville. In Daily wrote a great synopsis of how that went ahead, or how that didn't go ahead. The plans for that were by an Adelaide company, and they thought they were fitting in within the kind of built surrounds. Now, the pub itself's been closed for a long time. It's not a thriving venue, nothing like the Cranker, but still local residents and other people submitted something like over 200 submissions to the State Development Board to oppose that. And I think
one qualifier I want to say just before this, because I don't think we made it clear. Skip, the proprietor, wants to continue doing what he's doing. So there is this argument that we sometimes get, which is, well, you can't protect a culture. What if somebody takes it over? He wants to do this indefinitely, as long as he can.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I was looking to say as well is Lucy Hood was very active on that campaign to save the Buckingham Arms.
Yes, she was.
So it is good to see that on some of her socials at the end of last week, she was promoting to residents within the electorate, encouraging them to write in to the skateboard.
Fantastic.
And we've had the opportunity to meet with her and discuss how we were able to gain some support politically from the Labor Party.
Yeah.
One of the things that has been important for us from the get-go is that this is a community issue and it actually sits above politics.
Yeah.
We've been working in a way that's non-partisan.
On purpose.
very intentionally.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that, because you've got some runs on the board. We just talked about the current what's in play in terms of, people being able to write into the development board, but there's some good runs on the board, and the Adelaide City Council motion is a good example, I think.
Yeah, so the Deputy Lord Mayor, Kieran Snape, put forward a motion to Adelaide City Council about 2.5 weeks ago now on a Tuesday, and that was calling for the Lord Mayor, Jane Lomax-Smith, to be able to write to the Premier, but also there was an amendment made when they were voting on it to other relevant ministers to be asking for intervention around what's happening with the proposed development of the Cranker. So that's really quite unprecedented, I think, in a sense, for the Adelaide City Council to be saying, hang on a minute, you want a vibrant city, this isn't the way to go about it.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's a fantastic win, I think, that motion by the Adelaide City Council putting that forward. And, I think it got some good coverage too. There were a lot of supporters from the Cranker down there in the gallery there. So thanks to everyone if you're listening in. Yeah. You were there that night.
Shout out to the Lord Mayor, who has given us nothing but...
amazing support.
And surprisingly... our local paper has given us nothing but positive support as well.
Yes.
So
has been good.
Even Rupert, even Rupert has been in support, and unflaggingly as well.
No, it's a good. And look, after that, I think we had that on the 9th of April. But then the very next day, on the 10th of April, some good developments happened as well, Evan, in terms of state parliament.
Yeah, so Robert Sims put forward a motion in the Legislative Council, and that was calling for the MLC, so of the members of the Legislative Council
which is the upper house for the state government.
That's right, to pass a motion calling for intervention with the development of the Cranker. But importantly, there's also a discussion that's being raised within that for further law reform that takes into consideration cultural heritage, because this is one of the disconnects that we see here, that there's local heritage in place for the Cranker, but it's only facadism, like the first 40 centimetres of the building that is being covered under that.
Make no mistake, all that is left is the skin.
Which is it's a toothless tiger then, isn't it? That
beautiful pup. So full of history and heritage and life.
It gets reduced to just a 40 centimetre wall on the corner.
And with the, and at that point, isn't it an insult to be reminded of this great, of this great building that has meant so much to so many people.
Adelaide's got pedigree in doing that, though, unfortunately. We've seen that.
171 years old, mate.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. But we've done it a lot. And I think that's a really interesting point, that conversation now is about, let's address the Heritage Act and what it means, because there's been too much of that going on in Adelaide where a lot of historical buildings have been knocked down. But, even if they were heritage listed, people thought they did the right thing protecting it, like you do overseas, like you see what's happening in London, like you see it happening in other major cities with historical buildings. But here it's just people thought they've done the right thing, and then when push comes to shove, all you need to do is keep the facade. So we have, like you said, Evan, facadism going on. I think that conversation about changing the Act is a good direction.
Insufficient.
So those laws aren't responsive to the community's needs around cultural heritage protection.
And living culture, active culture now.
100%.
And this is a wider fight than just about the Cranker, isn't it? It's about the Adelaide music scene in general. It could, a change to that Act because this impact could happen on some of the other venues around Adelaide too. And we've seen that fight. Recent, early 2000s, there were threats against public development. Then I know that the Gov had to kind of fight back a bit about development. And
I was deeply involved in that realm.
And through public action then, that was successful. We won. We won on that with this, because people worked together, and we pushed back to say you just can't have apartments being built even behind existing buildings existing venues, and then essentially shut them down, which we saw what happened with what we were talking about earlier with the Austral, with the Exeter having to move their band room as well. All that stuff from the 90s changed because of the influx of new apartment buildings being built.
But even with first occupancy in place and allegedly being observed, almost every time if there is a complaint, then that complaint will be privileged and prioritised above the needs of the existing hotel.
It's crazy.
And I don't think any sane person can look at the strange situation of somebody moving next to a functioning and great venue, and then complain about the noise. Although the Lord Mayor did say a lot of this comes from those people who originally move in are cognizant of that. It tends to be the next generation of tenants that complain.
Wow. So, but anyway, some success already. I think that's powerful stuff. The Adelaide City Council motion to the State Premier, but also the Greens motion in State Parliament, looking to kind of review the legislation, which will then be debated in State Parliament probably, in the next week or so?
Yeah, so May 1st is when the Legislative Council have the opportunity to move that motion down to the House of Assembly. So we're also in process of developing a letter campaign for the MLCs.
Awesome.
And they're going to be...
And I was going to say, and don't forget, we have a rally organised to really draw attention to how we feel next Sunday.
So next Sunday, 29th at 11 a.m, people will be mustering together around the Cranker.
28th. Did you say 29th?
Yeah, 28th. 11 a.m. at the Cranker, and we're going to be marching down to Parliament House, and there's going to be bands playing, possibly on a truck, as it's not playing while the truck is moving.
As is the Australian tradition.
We're working really hard to be able to make that sort of.
And even if it doesn't,
happen.
the fact is we're going to march. We're going to go down to Parliament and let people know.
Riding down the highway.
Yep, and then back to the pub afterwards for
write some letters.
Go into a show
and write some letters, and also to kind of use that draft campaign. Write some letters to MLCs. Also write some letters to SCAT as well, voicing your opposition. I'm talking, if you're just tuning in, where have you been? You've been missing my lovely chat here with two lovely people involved in the Save the Cranker campaign, Evan and Nazz. Quick, let's talk about, because we've got a few minutes left before the show finishes, let's talk about the calls to action, the major ones that people can do to get involved in.
Yeah, so there's still a fair bit coming up. And look, people may be aware that there was a petition that went out, which has now just ticked over 20,000 people. So there's a whole electorate of people that are wanting to express themselves around this. And
thank you if you were one of those people that filled it in too.
But there is a danger, of course, isn't there?
People then might sort of be lulled into a sense of, I've done my bit, and hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
For us to be successful here, we need everyone driving this. And
that's right. And that is just like the first bump, like that's the first tick. For this to be effective, it has to be action-based, and we accelerate. So petition, if you've done it, great. More importantly and more effective, the places will go. So the next one's the next thing you can do.
Yeah, so a number of people also joined the initial private group for Save the Cranker. Still a great place to be. A bit of a party atmosphere in there, people sharing their memories. But and what they did last night, so memories like in a current sense. But with that, we've also created a campaign page of the same name, which is Save the Cranker. And so what people get from joining up with that page is currency around what it is that we need to do next and how they can help and how they can participate. So this week we've got the letter writing campaign is going to be starting for the Legislative Council,
Yep.
in State Parliament,
Yep.
and getting that right and getting our voices heard there
Yep.
is going to be incredibly important for progressing
Yeah.
that aspect of this.
Yep.
By the end of the week, we're going to have the letter writing campaign for the SCAP Development Board,
Yep.
and that's going to be a really critical step as well in terms of being able to inform the outcome of
amongst
this
the
process.
most important things that you can do. We can't stress this enough.
Yeah.
You must write. Without that pressure,
Yeah.
we've got nothing. Everything is just noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the real strategic stuff. Okay, people.
And if you are just tuning in, we did mention earlier on that we've been putting a lot of effort into this in the background. So we're helping you write the letter. There's
Yeah.
a pro forma.
Yeah.
There'll be opportunity for you to still contribute
Yeah.
your own ideas. But, getting in touch with the campaign through that Facebook page
Yeah.
and the other socials
Yeah.
and the website of savethecranker.com.au.
Because we appreciate not everybody, like a lot of people won't have the experience of writing these things.
Absolutely.
So the whole point of it is as a collective,
Yeah.
we come together to guide each other to be able to make the most dramatic
most
effect that
impact.
we can.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic thing, I think, and you've got so many elements covered there that people can get involved in. And also, I think if people just want to have a sense of being frustrated by this and they want to just be around other people of a like mind, turn up to the Cranker this next Sunday, 28th, 11 a.m. We've got a
11
rally,
Yep.
walking down to Parliament
Yeah,
House.
bring an instrument if you got it. Like make it look like a Mardi Gras.
Yeah, we're wanting it to be a real festive, fun
Awesome.
atmosphere.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and the theme is remind the city what we are and why they need us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And multi-generational, you got the kids
bring your
at
kids,
home.
bring your
take
mums and
them.
dads.
Please.
Yeah, it's incredibly important.
Naz and Evan, it's been great talking with you about all things Cranker and the fantastic work that you're doing as part of the Save the Cranker campaign. I look forward to being more involved in it and just getting more people involved in it as well. And, just check out the socials, as everyone's mentioned. If you want to get involved, do it right now. No time like the present. Thanks, guys, for coming in. That's it for this fortnight's Underground Frequency. I'll be back.
Save the Cranker.
Save the Cranker.
I'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Peace.